Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets, with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care.
Hello, book lovers. Welcome to Must Love Books. Welcome back to Must Love Books podcast. Today, I am here with author Sami Ellis. So for any new listeners, Sami Ellis is a queer horror writer inspired by the horrific nature of Black fears and the culture's relation to the supernatural. She is also the co-founder of the Right Team Mentorship Program, which I definitely want us to dive into and talk about. But let's first go into and talk about your debut, Dead Girls Walking.
Oh, sure thing. Dead Girls Walking is a YA horror book about a very angry girl who is the daughter of a serial killer. You know, she got good reason to be angry. When her father confesses to killing her mother, she doesn't believe him for some reason. You know, he's killed all these other people, but, you know, he didn't kill my mom. Whatever. Okay, go ahead. And she returns to his former stalking grounds to find her mom's body in attempt to either confirm what he said or clear his name of what he said. And to do so, she pretends to be a camp counselor because the land has been turned into a queer camp. And actually, it's been turned into a horror camp, but the queer club at her school is visiting the horror camp. She's pretending to be a camp counselor, and while she's searching for her mom's dead body, she has to, you know, participate in this thing that she's never been a part of because she's a very angry girl. And she has to, you know, manage both her duties as a camp counselor and her mission as the daughter of a serial killer.
That is great. Honestly, this has all of the makings of such a classic horror mixed with modern elements. And
that's what honestly, I was going for.
Yeah, that's what I look for in my horror, to be honest, is, you know, give us some of those classic styles and themes, you know, especially like the slasher at a camp. Like that's such a classic trope in horror, but bring in that modern spin, you know, the girl with her father being the serial killer.
Yeah.
You know, that's excellent. I love it so much.
So just some history on me, some Sami lore. I was always a fantasy writer. I would write adult fantasy, and I always had for a very long time, just because I've always been a reader of everything. I read everything. I read contemporary fantasy, nonfiction, anything I could get my hands on. And fantasy was, I guess, the funnest for me to think about. So I was always a fantasy writer, but the more books I wrote, every book had some type of horrific undertone, right? Like it would be, I remember I had a Harlem Renaissance fantasy, and it opens on her hearing the color of blood. Like she can hear colors and she's like, the blood is screaming at me. Like it's always horrific things. There were little goblins that only she could see that showed up to eat dead bodies, and if there was gore present, they would come to eat, you know, whatever mangled corpses they could find. You know, I had another book where the only way she could save the world was by biting off the ear of her sister. Like it was always super horrific. And so I never really thought about it because I love horror. I've always loved horror, but I never wrote it until I saw Get Out. And everybody loved it. And that's what made me want to write horror, is because everybody actually loved it. And I felt like, I think up until that point, I felt like people wouldn't like what I wrote if I wrote something that was horror or contemporary, because people only like Black stories in a way that was digestible for them, in a way that was catered to them. So I personally feel like Get Out was not catered to white people. In hindsight, now that we're very far removed from that movie, I'm more of the mind that it wasn't catered to white people. Like, Jordan Peele's intention was never to cater the movie to white people, but white people took what they wanted from it. I'm more of that mind. But back then, I watched the movie and I was like, this is a movie that's not catered to white people. Like, white people watch this movie, they're not afraid of their uncle trying to possess them or anything like that, but they're still scared in the moment because they can empathize with the main character. And it really moved me how everybody loved and feared the movie. And I was like, you know what? I love horror so much. I'm really going to go for it. And Dead Girls Walking was supposed to be a tribute to Friday the 13th, which is my favorite like horror franchise. And oddly enough, it's my favorite because of Freddy versus Jason, because that was the movie of my childhood. So I love both Nightmare on Elm Street and the Friday the 13th. But I credit Friday the 13th for being dumber. Like, even though the Nightmare on Elm Street is more clever, like they have like witty writing and things like that, and they're telling jokes, I feel like Friday the 13th was like, we trying to have some dumb fun. And I always respected that about those movies. That is my entire personality as a writer. I'm just trying to have fun and be dumb. Let's not think about things too hard. And I know that loses a lot of people. Trust me, I feel so bad when I see a smart person pick up my book. I'd be like, oh my gosh, you are not about to have a good time. And I wish I could fix that for you, but I can't. I don't have the brain power to fix it, make it smarter. I don't. But the reason why I got on this whole tangent is because Dead Girls Walking is intended. The reason why it's like a mix of old horror tropes and new is because I wanted to write a tribute to Friday the 13th through a Get Out perspective, where it's like, for Black people, Friday the 13th, for the way that Black people think about horror and think about, what I wouldn't stay. I would get out of there. Like, when we watch horror movies, we always talk about what we would do and how we would get out of the situation. So what would Friday the 13th, through the lens of, a Black girl like me, look like? And I had a lot of fun writing it, because, that was the purpose. It was to have some dumb fun. And I am really, a lover of, what horror has done for, I guess, concepts, if that makes any sense. Like, what horror has done for exploring different ideas and themes. And I just wanted to pay tribute to it.
I have always seen horror and the way that it evolves as kind of, when it comes to movies and stories, probably one of the most reflective of like the current society's ideals and
Mm-hmm.
outlooks and ways of seeing it. So, a lot of old horror, it was, oh, if you have sex, you're going to die, because it was, more based
Mm-hmm.
on a, puritanical view of sex and, as a sin and all of that. And now today's more modern horror is a lot more inclusive and really just taking those old tropes and either spinning them around to address them in a new way or completely throwing them out entirely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I have always loved how horror has been such a reflection of, the current society at that time. So I think you are absolutely right with Jordan Peele and really opening the door. Like, this is I don't want to call it a new type of horror, because it's still,
Yeah.
yeah, like, whether the correct phrasing is, I'm not sure, because I don't really consider it like a separate type of horror. Like, it's all
Mm-hmm.
still part of our horror and just how our horror genres evolve and change and shift as, cultural viewpoint shift. And I really just love seeing that. And I think that's something that we see more in horror than any other genre.
Yeah. Like, I think the thing about Get Out that's so transformative is that it taught Black creators because a lot of people are like, oh, Get Out was the start of like the social horror, like black horror. And I don't think it was that. I think the purpose of Get Out was very different. What Get Out did was that it allowed black creators to want to trust white audiences. For a long time, we didn't trust white audiences. Get Out taught us that there are some white audiences out there that will understand your message and still, you know, gravitate toward your work. Like, I don't have to write a Jim Crow story in order for the people to enjoy what I wrote. Like, it wasn't that Get Out was just taught everybody that we know horror now. Like, it didn't teach a bunch of black authors like, oh, write horror is cool. We were already writing horror. We just didn't trust that, you know, a larger audience would enjoy what we wrote. So a lot of us were just like, I'm not going to do it because, you know, I don't want to put work out there that's misinterpreted or misused, which is really the concern, is that it's misused. Like, I don't want, I'm going on another tangent, but I don't want to ever put something out in the world that, you know, is used to reaffirm a negative belief or a belief that I don't like. Like, I wrote Temple, the main character of Dead Girls Walking. She is very purposefully angry. She is very purposefully not easy to get along with. She's not easy to follow. And that's because, you know, there is this idea that Black girls are angry. And I wanted to write the perspective of a character where, you know, so what? Like, who cares if she's angry? Like, that's just part of her personality. And if you can't, I guess, if you can't sympathize or empathize with her, that's your problem. Like, that's
Yes.
something that you need to, that's something that you need to, you know, deal with in your own time in therapy or something. But, you know, it's really noticeable the difference in audiences, the way they react to Temple. I would say it's way more rare. There are Black women who read the book that don't like Temple, but it's way more rare than any other group. Like, most Black women like Temple, and it's because she is somebody that a lot of us know. Like, I wrote her based off of a lot of my students. Like, students who I had this one girl, and she was 12, and she dropped a pen, and I said, "Oh, you dropped your pen," and she rolled her eyes at me. I was like, "Why you roll your eyes? You dropped it, like, and I'm helping. Like, why are you rolling your eyes at me? Like, I don't even understand what just happened here. Like, why did I get aggressed? You know?" But like, she's just based off of, you know, so many different experiences I've had with my students, and the way that at the end of the day, I love all of my students, even though they do stuff like that gets on my nerves. Like, Temple does things that will get on your nerves. I'm so sorry to anybody who reads that book and is expecting to just be 100% behind the main character, because I gotta tell you, she makes some crazy decisions. She makes some crazy choices. You know, I wrote a direct quote from her is, "I hope each and every one of you bitches die." That is something the main character says. We're supposed to be rooting for her, you know. So, like, I'm sorry for everybody who can only read books if they like the main character. I gotta tell you, a lot of people don't. So, but I wouldn't ever trust that a white audience would appreciate Temple. I would never trust that, like, some girl from like the suburbs who was taught to be, you know, prim and proper and kind and smile. And I would never expect for somebody to read Temple and be able to instantly sympathize with her. I would never trust that they would read it and understand, you know, how Temple is abrasive and how she's so, like, in your face. But Get Out is what paved the way for me to say, you know, there are people who are going to get it, and the people who get it is the people who I'm trying to go after. And they don't have to be only Black people that get it. There's other people that are going to get it. It's just that the people who don't get it are the people who you don't have to worry about.
I love that. And it adds a whole additional level of like authenticity for a character to not be 100% likable.
Yeah.
You know, like who is a completely 100% likable person? Like nobody is always likable all the time. That's just not real.
I I think that people who think that they are 100% likable all the time don't realize that their positive traits are things that annoy other people.
Yes.
So people who are very selfless, the people around them are probably annoyed by like you always trying to sacrifice or something. Like you don't even have to sacrifice, but you're always trying to sacrifice. I have a sister like that who's so giving and nice and kind. It's like, girl, who cares? Like when she has to ask for money, when she's like broke and she has to ask for money, she's like texting like I'm about to throw up because I have to ask you for money. I'm just so sad about it. And I'm like, girl, just ask. Like, I
Just
don't care. You
ask.
ain't even doing nothing. I'm the one giving money. Why you acting like this? Calm down. Like, it's like people who think like my sister is a very good person. She's like a perfect person. Like when people created people, they was like, this is the kind of people we want. Like she's very good, but it don't matter. That still gets on my nerves. Like just man up, like put some bass in your voice, but I think that every people who think they're 100% likable just have so many good traits that it's hard for them to contextualize bad traits, and they don't realize that good traits can also be a negative thing.
Yes.
Like Temple's resilience is her good trait. Like people won't think of it like that when they read how she's acting, but the reason she's so angry, the reason she's so mean is part of that positive resilience trait. You know, she got this far by, scraping and, just fighting her way through everything to get to where she is. Like a lot of people would have gave up way before she did. So it's like nobody is 100% likable, but it's not just that. It's that good traits and bad traits, they're all two sides. They all have a spectrum of positives and negatives. Even angry people on the other side is resilience. Selfless, kind people on the other side is stubbornness. So I think that the people who can see the good in the bad are definitely the people who are going to rock with Temple. And I only talk about her so much because I feel like that's been the most controversial thing about the reception of my book is her. And I think it's very interesting. Like I wish one day I want to just do a full like spoilery live event with people where I could just talk about the craft of, you know, writing someone so unlikable and like why I made such different choices. Like why did I make her so angry? Why did I make her do this choice here and do that choice? Like because I think it's so interesting how people reacted to it, like from a craft perspective, you know. But yeah, that's another side tangent.
Well, and Temple being angry makes so much sense for her character,
Yeah.
given her backstory and what she's going through. I think it would be weirder if she wasn't angry.
It definitely would be super strange, and I would think that she was a serial killer. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like Temple's anger is what makes you know she's not killing people. Like Temple's not
Yeah.
out here killing people. That she's mad. She's not the type of person who could. She's not even capable. You know, but if she was out there smiling and Mother Teresa, I'm like, she's hiding bodies. Like she just like her daddy. So
Right.
like
Well,
I
and
agree.
that's really accurate too, because Mother Teresa is known for being this like wonderful, kind,
Yeah.
generous person. Um, but in reality, she was actually kind of horrible and awful.
Yes.
So,
Somebody taught me that. Yeah. I was like, whoa.
it's the nice ones you got to watch out for sometimes.
Now I gotta ask my sister, who have you been? I So you're right. It's the nice ones you gotta look out for.
So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about your writing process for Dead Girls
Mhm.
Walking.
Sure thing. So I said earlier, I am a fantasy writer, or I was a fantasy writer. I consider myself a horror writer now, but I used to consider myself a fantasy writer. When I first got the idea for Dead Girls Walking, it was about a camp still. And it was two girls came to a camp, and they were both chosen by respective gods of death. And they were supposed to battle it out throughout camp. And believe it or not, you can still kind of see I never wrote that version, but Temple has a foil whose name is Anissa. They were always those two girls. Like they were always the two sides of the same coin. Temple being the daughter of a serial killer that's super angry, can't have anybody, like pushes everyone away. And Anissa, the daughter of a cop, and she has people flock to her because she's nice and she's pretty and she's kind, so they were always two sides of the same coin. And I watched after Get Out, I was like, oh, I can just make this horror instead. Like I can just get rid of all this fantasy stuff because I didn't feel like writing it anyway. And so I was like, so now what do we lead to? And I'm a thematic writer. So I really like to consider like what I actually want to say when I write a book. I know it's hard to believe for anybody who's read my dumb books that there's actually that I actually come up with what they're trying to say first, but I actually do. And like I'm someone who I can't write the ending unless I know what the theme is. And I wanted to write about, like kind of I don't want to, it's saying good and evil is too simplified of a version of it, but I just wanted to write about how sometimes the good people are not the nice people. The good people are not the people who gonna kiss your ass. The good people are sometimes people who don't care to, make you feel comfortable before helping you. You can have a nurse that's mean, but she know what she's doing. Right. So I wanted to kind of explore that. And so that's when I came up with a bunch of stuff like Temple's personality. Temple has a frenemy, if I should say, a frenemy in the book named Callie. She was also one of the first characters. Originally, it was a children's camp. Like they was like 10 years old, and like except Temple and Anissa were teenagers, but everybody else was like 10. And I was like, I really can't just kill a bunch of kids. I mean, I know they're fictional and everything, but I don't think that I'm the person to do this. So I aged everybody up because I guess I can kill 15-year-olds, but I can't kill 10-year-olds. But, I came up with the different characters. I came up with Temple's personality. And it was really kind of just like working with that. Like, how did she become this way? Like writing kind of sprung from how did she become this type of person, and her backstory kind of built from that. And I was just writing from a perspective of her backstory for a really long time. I'm not necessarily a pantser, but I outline by the seat of my pants. So I'm not necessarily a pantser, but I do like just free write a bunch of outlines and just go where the vibes are taking me. And I try to plot but I'll change my plot in like a second, in a heartbeat. So I was just going by the backstory up until like maybe like the halfway point. I knew what I wanted to happen. I wanted people to die. I wanted bodies start dropping, but it was just vibing throughout the whole thing. I finished this book in like 2018. And it was handwritten, actually. I remember that. I wrote it by hand. And a lot of things changed. There was 20 girls originally.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like people talk about how there's too many characters. Now there was too many characters.
Yeah, that's a lot of characters to keep track of.
I was so, because I work in education, and I would work at this place. Like the character of Brenda is based off of me and one of my coworkers. Like she's the she's the director of the program. She's based off of me and one of my coworkers. Like I work in this, so I was kind of too caught up in like the real logistics of the camp.
Yeah.
Like you would actually have like 20 kids. Like it wouldn't be viable if there was just like 5 kids. Like you couldn't get funding for something like that. So I guess I was too concerned with that. So I was like, oh, I gotta have 20 girls. And so I cut it down because I was like, that's way too many people. But I didn't cut it lower because I needed the body count. I'm the type of person, I need people to die.
I mean,
Like
it's a summer camp horror, so there's got to be
exactly.
dead bodies.
The only thing I regret is that there were so many people that some of their deaths had to happen off page. That's the
Yeah.
only thing I regret, because I know there's people out there who think I was too chicken to write their deaths. No, it was just because it would drag the story, but I wish I could have wrote their deaths. There's somebody who dies in a closet. I was like, oh my gosh, I wish I could have wrote that. I really want that to be on page, but the story was already too long. But yeah, so I was just writing about deaths and her backstory, just scrambling. There's a mystery in the book. Who cares? I'm very like head empty. Let's just go. What do we think is fun? What do we want to do until I hit the end? And the end is kind of like when I get tired of what I'm doing. Like I'm like, let's wrap it up, right? So like, I wish that I could have like a better a better way to tell people how to write. Like, oh yeah, I sit at the table and I write for 2 hours and I interpret the inciting incident. I don't really do that. I just BS until I'm finished and
You
just have a
know,
bunch of fun.
and that's the way you got to do it sometimes, to be honest, is just BS it and
Yeah.
then put it together.
Okay, this is the one thing I can tell people is something. I think I'm a philosophy type person. So my philosophy about writing is really storytelling, in the sense that I could, worry about the inciting incident and blah 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 and midpoint. In a sense, I do. But if I was telling this to my sister, I used to, well, growing up, my sister's not a reader, but I would tell my sister books that I was reading. Like I was like, I just read this book night called Twilight, and she was this girl in high school, and she was in the, like, if I were to tell this book to my sister, how would I tell it? Right? My sister thinks that Twilight sounds more interesting than the Hunger Games, because apparently I just described
You
Twilight
just
so
tell it really well.
interestingly. I told Twilight so well. And when she said that to me, I was like, I'm so offended by that, because Hunger Games is the best. Like, I love Hunger Games so much.
It is
But
my favorite. I could go on for
yes,
hours about Hunger Games. Hours.
yes. My coworker one time, he's a reader. He said it's all right. And I was like, this is the most I've ever wanted to fight you. I've never wanted to fight you in my life. But you saying the Hunger Games is just all right is crazy. But my philosophy is like, just peel back all of the craft things that I know. How would I tell this story? And I would tell this story like, Temple is the daughter of a serial killer, and her dad confesses to killing her mom. She goes and she sees, like, I would just talk it out. And I actually get my mentees to do this sometimes as well. Like when they're really in their head about edits and stuff, I say, all right, as you are right now, talk the story. Tell me summarize it to me right now from start to finish. And typically by the time they finish, like, I'm like, you got it. Like, you know what you're doing. Like, that's a story. You just told me the story. You got it. And I think that the part of me BSing and stuff like that is because at the end of the day, I prioritize fun. And as long as I'm having fun, it's all good.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets, with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care.
I say there's something called the shape of a story. A story has a shape, and I asked Holly Black about this because I knew, like, I was like, Holly Black, you are an established writer. You've written so many books, so you have to know what I'm talking about, because some people look at me like I'm crazy. Stories have a shape. They are a shape, and when you're revising, you're trying to revise so that the shape is what it's supposed to be. Like, let's say your story is a circle, you know? Well, when you're revising, you got a too big character. Like, it's too bumpy, it's too lumpy, it's not a smooth arc in the circle. So you got to trim some of that character off so that it fits the story. She said she also knew what I was talking about. She said because when people describe stories, sometimes they do stuff with their hands. So they're like, so I had to make the characters like, so she was like, so I think people instinctually know. I think that when we're talking the story out, that philosophy that I'm saying, like just saying the story to my sister, I think that's us getting back to the shape of the story. And when we're sitting down writing, it's so big. It's such a long process that we lose the shape of the story. And that's why you always want to come back and just tell it to yourself.
That is honestly such a really good way of looking at it. I love that.
I don't know if it was coherent. I'm sorry, but I it's something that I think helps, and especially if you know what you like in stories. Like a lot of people really just like romance, right? They may not be a romance writer. Maybe they love nonfiction, but they also love romance. So what, like when they're thinking of the shape of the story, maybe the romantic line takes a lot of that shape, but that's okay. You just got to remember that that's what you like. I love fun. So when I'm talking about the shape of the story, I got to go, this explodes and that happens. And oh my goodness, I just really love like big chaos, big moments of chaos and screaming and kills. I love crazy kills. Final Destination is my favorite
Oh,
franchise.
yeah.
And, when I'm talking the story out, I'm usually talking about this kill and that kill and this person dies and stuff like that, because that's what I enjoy. But your story is going to be different. Everybody's shape is different, but you want to bring it back to what it is.
I love that. So let's go into your publishing journey for Dead Girls Walking. What did that look like for you?
Like I said, I wrote the book in 2018 and nobody wanted it. I think that the industry met up behind my back and said, look, fuck this Samira girl, because we don't like that. Her book is trash, and we're just gonna all just decide to not mess with her. So I queried that book for like 3 years because I really believed in it. Like I out of all the books I ever wrote, Dead Girls Walking was the first book I understood when people said, this is the book of my heart, or something like that. Or, when you have a book that's worth something, like Dead Girls Walking was that. And now that the reviews are like, people have read my book, I get why agents rejected it on one hand. I get because my book is very polarizing. But on the other hand, it's like, it still was worth representing. So I queried for like 2-3 years. I got like 100 rejections, which is not that much now, but back then in 2018, that was a lot. So then I wrote another book that was written out of anger towards the reaction to Dead Girls Walking. I felt like everybody didn't want Dead Girls Walking because it was not about slavery. It was not about Jim Crow. Like, it was that same issue of like trusting the white audience to like actually meet you where you're at instead of expecting a different story out of you. And I felt like they did want that other story. So I wrote I wrote a book that I was like, I'm gonna write the worst book about slavery ever. Like, it's gonna be the least educational book that could ever be written about the Black oppression and everything. And I love that book so much, but I wrote that and I got into pitch wars off of it. So Dead Girls Walking had no champion. No one loved it. She was the ugly girl. Nobody really liked her. And I ended up shelving her. Like, I queried 100 agents off of her. Like, I queried over 100 agents off of her. So, I did pitch wars. I got an agent from that other book, and that other book died on submission. So I was like, all right, I guess publishing didn't meet up and say they hate Dead Girls Walking. They said they hate me. So,
Oh no.
I chose I approached my agent and I was like, hey, like I have this one book. I queried it and nobody liked it. So I'm not really sure if it'll work out, but we can revise it. I'll send it to you. And I revised it and then I sent it to her. And we went out on submission after like 2 rounds of edits. And it took a while. Like I think we got our offer like 7 months later. And the editor like apologized to me. She was like, I'm so sorry it took me so long. I was like, child, you query 110 pages, 7 months ain't nothing.
Yeah.
So she described the reason why I remember this so fondly. I mean, other than the fact that it was a editor offering on my book, but she said that my book was Friday the 13th by way of James Wan. And I was like, that is exactly the perfect description for what I was going for. Like, it's not the exact perfect description of Dead Girls Walking. It's exactly what I was going for. Like that modern sensibility to a classic story. And I just felt like she really got the book. And she gave me her notes, and I thought that they were not that big of a deal to do. One of the notes is actually something I was like, yeah, I can do that, no problem. And then when I was revising it, I was like, I ain't about to do that. I like message. We had another meeting to talk, and I was like, hey, so like I know I said before you offered that I was gonna do it, and now that you offered, I'm like, I'm not gonna do it. But I promise you there's a reason. Um, so I guess I can say this because it's a spoiler, but it's not that big of a spoiler. Temple, as I've said multiple times, is not a likable girl. She One of the biggest things in the book is that the girls don't like her. The other girls at her school do not like her. And you find out it's for good reason. She beat one of the girls with a pipe. Like,
Oh jeez.
yeah, she beat one of the girls with a pipe. And she broke the girl's leg, and the girl was on the basketball team. She got kicked off the basketball team. The girl talks about how her family's been having financial troubles because of the medical bills and stuff. And like that's like that's typical dark fast. And the editor was like, hey, like, let's take this out. Like, that's a felony for one. And two, it kind of pushes her past the point of redeemability, right? And I was like, that makes sense. Like, I guess not everybody's going to be cool with armed battery. I can understand that being a line. So when she brought it up, I was okay with it. But then when I was revising, I was just like, yeah, but Temple, the whole point of this character is that you are not supposed to think she is a good person. Like, you are not supposed to think, Temple's good. You're never supposed to be like, she made some smart decisions in her friendships and how she deals with people. She knows exactly what she's doing. You're never supposed to think that. And the hype scene, the whole point is to show how traumatized she is by her upbringing and, by the consequences of her upbringing. Like, her father is a serial killer, and the whole world knows him. People follow her, people stalk her. There has been a lot of not just people who like serial killers. Those people are crazy. Like, she's traumatized by so much more than the fact that her father was violent. And that scene is just showing like how broken she is. Like, how it's one thing that she's angry, but it's another that she doesn't know when the anger is justified and when it's not. She's just scared. Like, and I just really wanted to, after I was revising, I was like, dang, I really put a lot of thought into this. I was like, dang, this scene actually makes a lot of sense. And taking it out is kind of messed up to what I'm trying to say. I guess I gotta go back on my words that I'm gonna take it out. And so Like, other than that, like the ideas from my editor were like exactly like I'm the type of person that I'm a dork about writing. I love writing. I love craft. I love criticism, all that stuff. I've had edit letters that I've been like, this is dumb. You're dumb. I don't like your suggestions. But I've also had edit letters where I was like, everything you say is genius. You a genius. Sometimes from the same person. I remember my agent, I feel like every edit letter she's given me, I've been like, wow, my agent is so smart. She's a genius. And then she gave me one edit letter. I was like, this is trash. This is a heap of garbage. And I don't respect any of your opinions on this book. And it took me a minute to like kind of like calm down for one. And two, to actually pick what I liked out of the suggestions. But like I am a dork when it comes to criticism. I love revising. I love beta reads and stuff like that. So when the editor gave me the comments, the fact that they resonated with me was like a knockout of the park. So the publishing journey, to simplify, I queried forever. Nobody liked me. So I wrote something else and got an agent. Then I was on sub forever and nobody liked me. So I went back to Dead Girls Walking and I ended up getting the book deal off of it and hit it off with my editor. And that editor, unfortunately, was let go like right after copy edit. So, I didn't actually get to publish with them, but, it was super, I guess it was a big learning experience in general where I got to understand what editors are looking for in published works versus what agents are looking for in proposed works versus what I'm looking for when I write my book. They're all three different intentions and it kind of shows.
I love that. And it really goes to show that you really just have to wait for the right agent
True.
to find your book. And, it's querying is its own special kind of hell.
Yes, it is.
Whether
and it's worse now.
Yeah, oh my goodness, because there's just so much.
Yep.
Everyone wrote a book over the pandemic.
Yep.
Literally every single person wrote a
Yep.
book over the pandemic. And so everyone started querying at the same time. And it's like, even agents that you would have had a chance with before aren't able to read your book because there's just so many people who are like, hey, I wrote a book over the pandemic. Like the number of people I have on this podcast, and I'm like, so what was your writing journey? And they're like, well, I wrote a book over the pandemic. It's been like at least a third.
And more power to them. But as a grandma in this industry, and I say that with pride, I am a grandma in this industry. My first book I wrote in 2010. I really think that some of y'all that wrote these pandemic books need to relax. Relax. It's okay. Relax. It's all good. I feel like some people have decided not to have a life outside of writing, to not have interest outside of writing. And I'm here to tell you that is not the way to be happy because this industry is garbage. Like, do not put your whole life into this. Like, I know you wrote this
tough
book.
industry to get into. It really is.
I try not to be a buzzkill, but at the same time, whenever I see like new authors being so bright-eyed and Bridget's Tale, I'll be like, I'm here to tell you, it's not too late to hate publishing. Please,
it's not too late to find another hobby.
It's not too late. Join me. The phrase I hate the most: make my agent mad. Ooh, I hate that phrase. When authors are like, I don't want to make my agent mad. What they gonna do? Fight you? Like, like, because I talk crazy about my agent, but I truly do appreciate them because they explain things to me like I'm 5 when I ask her to, and she gives me great feedback on my stuff. It's super important to be able to put the pen down, put the emails away, and live your life. When I'm not writing, I'm like teaching. I'm being with students. I'm talking to guidance counselors and financial aid officers. And I have my other passion outside of books is college access and education. And even outside of that, I have video games. Like, I am a huge gamer. Like, Tony Hawk Pro Skater, that's my jam. There's life beyond.
So before Dead Girls Walking,
Mhm.
you participated in the Black horror anthology, All These Sunken Souls.
Yes.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about that one? I actually had another author from that anthology on earlier this year, Joelle Wellington.
Read that one. Read Joelle. Yeah, so All These Sunken Souls was a really great opportunity. I always tell people I got in that anthology from Twitter. The editor, Cersei Moskowitz, she tweeted, "Hey, I would love to do a horror anthology." And I retweeted it like, "Hey, invite me if you do it." And she did. So like I did not have a book deal when I was invited to do that. So they did not have to invite me. I got invited from Twitter. I shot my shot and it worked out. I love that. I love that I was a part of it. It's one of my fondest memories because, especially for me, since I'm a horror writer and I'm so vocal about being a horror writer, if somebody does a horror anthology and they don't care who's in it, let's be clear, because if they care about people being in it, they're not going to ask me. They're going to be like, I'm going to ask Joelle. I'm going to ask the big names. But if they're like, oh, I'm just trying to be chill and have like a chill anthology and it's horror, they're going to ask me because I'm a horror gal. It's one of my fondest memories because it was just a bunch of us that just really love horror. Like the launch event, we was talking about, cosmic horror or gothic horror. Like it was like this or that, but with horror. Like it was just such an environment of like, these are my people. I'm with my people. Like it was just such a excellent thing to be a part of. And I love writing about hoodoo and like southern things like root work and stuff like that. I love writing about that stuff just because like I'm geeky. My family is very geeky, like my grandfather's generation. And I love writing about the things that they've told me. I just love thinking about like or hearing about these folklore stories that are part of my family's history. So the story I wrote was about Pete. People say when they read it that it's like Tooth Fairy short story, like it's like a gothic Tooth Fairy type of short story. I'm here to tell you that was accidental.
Oops.
That makes so much sense. When I saw somebody say that in a review, I was like, oh, that makes so much more sense. That's what my story's about now. But that's not why I did that. I did it by accident. But yeah, it's about this babysitter who steals her ward's teeth for money. She sells them to a witch doctor and spook ensues. Yeah.
I love that. And it's always great to be able to touch on, different folklores, especially ones that you have a connection to. That's fantastic.
Yeah. I love the historical background of like the Gullah Geechee traditions, but it's also not like my lived experience. So learning about it is like learning about any other foreign culture. It's just that the exciting part is when I'm learning about it and I see something that I recognize in my own life. Like I was reading it, right? And Kumbaya, right? The song Kumbaya is a Geechee song. I had learned that. And they was like, Kumbaya is not what they're saying. They're saying, come by here. It's come by here, my Lord. And when I learned that, I was like, oh my gosh, like that's how my family says come by here. It's kumbaya. Kumbaya. Right? I was like, oh my gosh. Like, it's like I'll research it and it'll recontextualize my life. Another thing, sweet potato pie is credited to Gullah Geechee people, right? They're credited to have invented sweet potato pie. Sweet potato pie is such a big deal in my house. Like, there's 3 people in my house, me, my mom, and my sister. My mom makes 20 sweet potato pies every Thanksgiving.
Oh my goodness.
It's a big deal. It is a currency Like, I'll be like, Mama, I will do the dishes if you give me an extra pie. Like, like it's a currency in our house, and it is across the different branches of my family. Like, everybody has a billion sweet potato pies. I feel like if we all band together, we would create a sweet potato shortage, right? Because it's such a big deal in my house. So learning that, like, it's credit to be invented by us, like, I was like, that makes sense because like that's practically my blood. I'm practically 75% sweet potato pie. And I don't even like potatoes. I don't like potatoes. I don't like sweet potatoes. All my life, I never liked them. It was only sweet potato pie that I ate. I never liked anything. And I love sweet potato. I love it so much. So, like, learning about the culture, it's like learning about any other culture that's not my culture. But sometimes there'll just be this spark of this thing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that was my life. Um, like you said, it's such a fun thing to interact with your own lore. But because I didn't grow up in it, it's also like a game. Like, it's like learning about my lore, but also learning how my family fits into this lore that I'm learning about.
I love that. So we have two things left to cover.
Mm-hmm.
Besides your own book, what is
Mm-hmm.
one book that you recommend to others?
Well, I guess Divine Mortals by Amanda Gielander. I have been a champion for this book since July 2020. I love this book so much. The main character is this girl named Mona. She is agoraphobic, but cripplingly horny. Her horniness is in everything she does. And I love it so much because even though I'm ace, like, I'm an aromantic person, I don't feel the way that Mona feels. But it just feels so earnestly real. It feels so earnestly real about a person's experience, right? Because to me, some people I talk to, and I'm just like, y'all think about sex that much? Like, like, I can't relate. But to me, everybody thinks about sex too much. Like, there's nobody who doesn't. If you think about it once, then you're thinking about it too much to me. So someone who thinks about it a lot and is always wanting it, and always thirsting after people, like, I love her so much. Like, it's something that's so unapologetic about her, and I love it so much. And I think that she is someone who a lot of people will love to read from. And I love that book. It's very funny, breezy. I told her it is like if Ilona Andrews wrote a Diane Wynne Jones book, and she does not know what that means. But if you know what that means, that I'm telling the truth. Read that book. It's so good.
I will definitely have to check that one out. Okay, so before we wrap up here, let's talk about what are you working on next? Do you have any future projects in the work?
I have a secret, and I have an anthology with Al Craig. It's called Monsters and Masquerade. I wrote a short story. It's another, Southern root work, South Carolina, low country type story about a girl who she runs a clinic. She just graduated high school, but she runs a clinic for the spirit sick. And her clinic has become overrun with spirit sick girls. So she goes to her local congressman to complain. She's like, you got to do something about these spirit sick girls. When the congressman ignores her, she decides to kill him. That's what the short story is about. And I had a lot of fun, especially because a lot of my friends were in that anthology. So, like, we're all like, oh, look at this. My story's right next to yours. Like, so that is the next thing. And WTMP, my mentorship program, um, is underway. We just did our first class, and we're also doing the open inbox, which is a program where you can email questions to our mentors. Like, if you have any writerly publishing questions, you can email us. We'll send them to a mentor and they can answer it. No holds barred. We get a lot of, what do you do if your agent says this? And what do you do if your editor wants this? Those are the three things that I'm doing. Secret, anthology, WTF. And it's being run by someone else this year. Zilla Writes on Twitter. They are the captain of the ship.
All right. Well, I want to congratulate you again on Dead Girls Walking. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. This has been Must Love Books. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Patreon under @MustLoveBooksPodcast. Thank you and happy reading.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets, with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care.